It's like, do you take liberties with an Ozzy song? And you just listen through and like, these are such well-composed songs. Strung Out kind of went this other way. They kind of went Iron Maiden here. You can't really touch it.
Bark at the moon!
Who wore it better? Welcome back to Lowen University, and welcome to another episode from this month's channel theme titled Who Wore It Better, where I take an original song, a cover of the same song, and decide which artist did it better, especially regarding the bass lines. This episode is another where I do know the original track, and I'm hearing the cover of it for the very first time, and though I could be biased, going up against some of Ozzy's most legendary cuts is a tall order. But Strung Out is a punk band I've recently really fallen in love with, and after getting to know some of their work, they're just great. I'm so pumped to hear their take on this song because in my mind, I feel like their style is perfectly cut out for it. But the original song is the title track from Ozzy's third studio album released in 1983, and Bark at the Moon was actually the very first music video he ever did. This whole release and campaign was a huge commercial success for Ozzy, and still today is the song frequently hailed as one of his best. And as big of a legacy as Black Sabbath left on our world, I was always more familiar with Ozzy's solo stuff and all the Bob Daisley bass lines, which are packed full of great stuff, great tone, so I'm curious to see how Strung Out interpret it. And lyrically, I'm positive Strung Out are big fans, considering their song Exhumation of Virginia Madison is creepy, and Bark at the Moon deals with a creature of some sort who terrorized a town, was killed, and later mysteriously returned to once again wreak havoc upon the villagers. This is kind of a joke I'm making. Maybe this creature in question was Virginia Madison. Maybe I figured it out, finally. Without further ado, let's hear the OG Bark at the Moon from the late Ozzy Osbourne. May he rest in peace. It has been, I don't know, it's been a while since I've really sat down and listened to this song. Like, you hear this song faintly in the wild all the time, but really sitting down and remembering some of the nuances of the riffs, the bass lines, I just kind of forgot how technical and thrashy it was. And I always thought Bob Daisley was a finger player. He's always had kind of a smoother tone. I just never hear that sharp pick thing, but I did read he was a pick player. So maybe it does contribute a bit to that tighter, punchier sound he gets from palm muting, which I'm talking about right here when it's stopped. You kind of get this pumping. Kind of has this disco, if I dare say, tendency and articulation on the notes to really contrast that digga 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 driving guitar stuff. It makes it bounce, gives it some breathing room, I suppose. And if I were to go back just a bit here, I really want to take it all in because this is probably the more technical, original song I've done so far this month with the Who Wore It Better theme. And Strung Out are a very technical band, so I really want to try without bouncing back and forth between two songs. But for now, I'm going to try to all just do it off the top of the dome here. Ozzy has a very signature doubled vocal sound, and a lot of the punk bands I review don't lean into that too often. It's more of a singularity play in the vocals. So I'm curious to see if Strung Out maybe try to get that Ozzy character on the vocals. Okay, let's go back to about here. And the F sharp. Okay. Bump, 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 bump. Cool move there. Bob Daisley stays on the F sharp. Almost sounds like he's doing that kind of digga octave thing. A little bit, while the guitar chords go to D, so he's putting the D in first inversion, the E over the F sharp, so there's a bit of that rub happening, which gives it an unresolved characteristic, which is perfect for a pre-chorus. Cool, I'm just kind of reabsorbing some of the music. I don't think I've ever listened to this song this closely. Okay. Bark at the moon. Bark at the moon. like those accents are basically 2 against 3. Da, ba, ba, da, 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 da. So it's a cool rhythm that kind of misaligns with the pulse dictated by the drums and the bass. That type of thing there. So it's got a cool off-center pulse in the main riff. Kind of really makes you decide how you're going to bob your head. I dig it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. See? Yeah, I like this riff change up here. Makes it a little more melodic. There's now kind of a melody in the riff. Because do you really say there's a melody in these sort of... It's thrashy, you know, thrash riffs can have a melody, but sometimes they can just be kind of a backdrop with intense subdivision and energy. So I like how the riff grows here and it kind of has this... Okay. Nice, beautiful harmonies happening. Real regal. It sounds like the bass doubled that. You can never be too sure. I don't know, honestly. It's like a whole different song now. What's kind of cool about the riff being based around A here, and unless I'm not looking at all the data, I'm just kind of hearing this go by. We had that B flat thrown in, which puts it in D minor, 6, 7, 1. But if the riff was really riding on the 5 chord, I'm interested if that is just a good case of that ambiguity where they only give you maybe 4 chords and use the remaining 3 notes. They don't show you the whole poker hand of cards right away. You're kind of thrown off with this F sharp they put here in the pre-chorus. So that would be maybe borrowing from D major, a borrowed minor chord kind of thing. So these are the makings of why songs are great. It really is one of Ozzy's best. I mean, I've always thought that. It's just a perfect amalgamation of things he's known for, the musicians he's known to work with. I've always loved this track. This B flat. And here's kind of an example where under a guitar solo, the bass player does one of 2 things. Really simplifies the bass part to really let the guitar solo have its moment in the spotlight. Other times, that's where you find the good bass stuff. The juicy bass stuff that maybe can be, I wouldn't say competing with the guitar solo, but adding more busyness in the bass line can sometimes augment the entire energy of the song when you don't have that hook or that chorus or the bark at the moon or Ozzy's presence there. So there's a lot of different right answers here. So I like how Bob Daisley is actually simplifying it. It's very... where there's been a lot more movement in some of the previous parts where the vocals did exist. So every bass player does it different. I'm always on a quest to learn and absorb, see both sides of the coin. But it's real stripped down here. Okay. Ooh. Threw that B diminished in there, which is super sexy. gives it that kind of chromatic root movement. So it's been all the makings of a really perfect chord progression for a guitar player to just keep building the energy till you just can't take it anymore. The B flat, going down to the major 5, putting those two major chords next to each other. 6, 1, which has been the majority of the solo. Now this last repeat here, B flat major, 7, B diminished, and back to the 1. Just that one chord they threw in can really change how the whole thing concludes. Okay, here it goes. Ooh, there was actually something. Nice little bass movement there, kind of signaling the conclusion of maybe the guitar solo, or signaling things are about to start moving a bit. Okay, what I'm talking about is right here. Here it goes. Cool. Now back to A, which is, they've now shown you is really the 5 of the chord. So I wouldn't say there's any sort of key change, only left out information. So to really lean on the 5 on the main riff there, where we've just landed, and kind of ignore that D minor being the 1, almost feels two-tone. Almost feels binary in terms of like two different keys, even though they're just using the same bank of notes, just choosing to lean on different sides of it. We all know Ozzy has great songwriting and everything he's done. I mean, what a discography between everything he's done. Everything's just been amazing. You look at how many hits he's had, and you just listen through and like, these are such well-composed songs. But I am making a mental note, more so in the guitar stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff happening here. I know Strung Out are just such a damn good technical band. Okay, let's get through it. I just got a refresh for me. I love Ozzy's acting here. If this is the first video he's done, it's intense. It's creepy. Perfect. It's the best riff of the song there. Dig it, dig it, dig it, dig it. What I do know is that I know Strung Out are just going to rip these solos to pieces and put them back together in their own unique way. That's my prediction. The rest I'm unsure about. It's like, do you take liberties with an Ozzy song? Probably not too many, but there's a lot of room to just put them on turbo, I would say. Well, it's time to hear Strung Out's take on this bad boy. Strung Out are quickly becoming, again, one of my favorite punk bands on the heavier side of the spectrum, so I can only imagine this cover will lean into that same tendency stylistically. Now, sometimes I have to do a lot of detective work on these off-album punk songs, which I'm now calling this process the reissue rabbit hole, because I thought this was a live recording with Google stating it's from the band's Live and a Dive release. But wait, it was actually on their compilation release from 2009 titled Prototypes and Painkillers. But no, it's from another compilation album titled Punk Goes Metal from the year 2000, but it says 2002 here. I give up. Whatever. It was released at some point on some album. I guess I'm just trying to make sure I have the right bass player. That's all. Make sure I have the right version and do this episode justice. But yeah, this was actually released in 2000, which means Chris Aiken is on bass. So let's hear Strung Out's take on Bark at the Moon. Ooh. Faster. Wow. It's faster. It's definitely grittier. And I was going to say in the last, that album, Bark at the Moon, was like Ozzy's maybe first foray into the more pop metal with synths. And it was just around that time that became the commercial success. I think that just really made his music more accessible to the mainstream and not so metal. But he did it so organically in his own way. But all that to say, it definitely had room to lean into a really heavy take on. I think that's what these guys are going for. I could just hear it in the guitar tones. Of course, they're more modern. This is, 15, 20 years later, 17, 18 years later. But that bass tone is really gritty. And they're taking it down a whole step. Because, again, the last song was an A. Or the riff started on A, I should say. So now we're here in G, going down to E minor on that part that was originally F sharp. So I think a whole step down, going down even a whole step makes everything just feel more sludgy and thick. And there's a couple chords they threw in here that I don't know if were on the original. Some of these tritone, you hear them right here. They could be in the original. There's a lot going on in the original. That's the fun part of this series, to see if I can almost remember the nuances. But I'm talking about these things right here. Is that in the original? And if it is, it's got to be much more subtle. Again, I don't want to bounce back, so I'm going to assume they weren't there. That's happened on the past few episodes. Okay. Okay, I haven't talked about the tone. I got to get something a bit more gritty. If I don't go to the amp, it means like I feel the tone is pretty much in the ballpark. I think Bob Daisley had a really nice rock and metal tone, very even, nothing too punchy or gritty, full, warm, a little bit of bite on it, just like the quintessential rock-based tone, right? This has some teeth on it, so I'm gonna maybe give it some of that. Maybe not a ton. A little more subtle, but I'm also going to pump the bass and maybe work in some treble and scoop. It's got that kind of scooped thing going on. But it's definitely got some bass in there. Kind of has that character to it. Let's roll with that. Getting gritty. Okay, down to E now, so whole step down to where this pre-chorus part was. In the original, it was on F sharp, we're now here in E. Guitar chords are still kind of doing the inversion thing, so bass rides on the C, guitars are in, bass is on E, guitars are hitting the C power chord, so we have this. Then the guitars go up to D while the bass is still on E. So same, true to the original there. It's obviously faster too. Ooh, what is that? Something was slithering behind my ears. You can just... What was that? Was that the guitar layer? I assume maybe guitar layer, but it could really be anything. But I like that. Yeah, it just feels like something brushed behind your head in headphones. Like the stereo imaging, the panning of that was a cool layer. Like a wah pedal, you know. Cool effect, whatever it is. I honestly feel like they've sped up since they started. I can go back and reference that. I don't know where it occurred because it's been very subtle, but it was already a little faster than the original. Which, yeah, those kind of riffs, you can take them as fast as you want. They're going to sound badass, but I think they're really pushing the tempo here. Obviously a different drum beat. Ooh. Oh, shit. Whoa! Something about the song changed here. It felt loose. It kind of had, in addition to the tempo increasing slowly, which it definitely objectively did. I just don't know when or where, but maybe that's kind of the goal. And it had this kind of about to fall off the train tracks thing, like the more punk, D-beat kind of thing going on, more thrash beat, if you will. But everything kind of like converged here. It's like it tightened up. The guitar parts maybe weren't so doubly feeling, where it's just very lively, I guess is the word I'm looking for. You can hear that bass kind of dial in and get really punchy, kind of with the octaves. Kind of had this thing going on here. I don't know, just something really, it's like the picture became more clear. The harmonies are cool. Talking about this part right here. Let me go into that. Since we're lively here, big change right there. You just feel it. Did they slow down too? More tempo things happening. Okay. Some little melody there. What's going on? Okay. Cool. I feel like I can hear the character of the bass tone even more now. It definitely has that warmer thing happening. I mean, the trick is getting the low end right. I'm going to try scooping it even more. Yeah, that's a little more what maybe I was going for. Now we have that meatier, juicy bacon cheeseburger kind of thing here. I feel like the mid-range is like when things spill out on your shirt or something. Like a good bite. It's not messy. That's like scooped bass tone for me. I'm going to keep talking about bass tones and food. But yeah, it obviously he's using a pick, so it's going to bring out some of that character more. And obviously it's downtuned, maybe on a 5-string, I don't know. I don't have the low E flat here, but you can hear that low E flat just sing right here. Right here. It's the lowest as I can go is the E, but it's down there in that juicy range. Ooh. You know what? I forgot I had a downtune thing here. Magic. I forgot I had this on this preset. I don't use it often. Wow, just did a magic trick. Okay, now I can kind of play along with that. Well, it'll come back. dig it out, dig it out, dig it out. Okay, I think that's a liberty on the original. Obviously, at the faster tempo, these things just come to life more. I don't know. I feel like you could really take any metal song, rock metal song. You can increase the tempo. You can increase the gain of the guitar bass tone blend, and you have yourself a much heavier version just in 2 steps. I love this here. This gives a ton of energy under it. And if I'm thinking back to what I was talking about, Bob Daisley's bass line being simplified under the guitar solo, because previously it was... It had that more streamlined, straight thing, almost contrasting the complexity of the riffs, like an intentional, we're going to bring it down so the guitar solo can be the most technical thing you hear, therefore keep your attention. Strung Out kind of went this other way. Dung-ga-dung-ga-dung. They kind of went Iron Maiden here. Dung-ga-dung-ga-dung. This fast tempo. That's such a fun way. Again, I think both methods work to elevate the guitar solo section of the song. Let's jump into that. That's just fun to play along with. If I can pick that. Nice. Okay. True to the original there, just despite being down. Did the... Back to the original riff. So, not taking liberties in places that would change the character of the song. This is really tastefully done too. I find the additions are very cosmetic in nature, and I think that's just the makings for a great cover. Vocally so far, I don't think they even tried to touch the Ozzy thing. Like, some vocalists, you just can't, you can't really touch it. Not like an ability thing, but it's just the character is just tough to match. I think it would just always be a little off. So they leaned into their own sound here. It very much has that heavier punk flavor. So I think that's also a respectful thing to observe, not to try to put a bunch of effects on it or double it in the way Ozzy did, and just it went for their own thing here. And it really works with the downtuned, heavier nature of the guitar tones and such. Okay. Back to... Okay. What the fuck?
Back at the moon!
Oh my God. Like, this would have been a badass cover if it just played it out. Faster tempo, tuned down. It's obviously a heavier take on it. A little more technical riffing, the subdivision. What do you even call that? It's like they got elevator smooth jazz for a second here. It doesn't even make sense. I like it for that reason. Let's go into that again. What the hell? No, I gotta feel that transition. Okay. I love the way it comes back in as much as I love the way it came into this section. It swung here. It's a whole meter change. You hear the snaps put in. How fun and playful. And I feel like it... The only way this could have not worked is if they didn't come back in as quickly as they did and right back into the original theme. Like, it's a clear, like, subversion of what you've been feeling the whole song. If they drew it out or got too weird, I think it would be like, okay, it's Bark at the Moon, guys. Let's go back into the song. But a fun detour, unexpected. One more time. I got to get some of those lines because it's taking the character of the bass part that happened earlier when I said the song just like converged and changed. Like the whole song just changed. It's like almost that was foreshadowing this in a way with the bass part, kind of doing those more funky octaves. That kind of stuff. Okay, I'm not going to spend too long on it, but how can I not listen to this a bunch? This is so fun. Total jazz nod here. Little last part too. That's so good. Yeah. You know, I was just looking at the episodes list for this month, the songs we have coming up for this Who Wore It Better series, and they all sound so fun. But I think this is the last one on the list where I know the original. I think there's one more. Know the original, don't know the cover, so the cover just completely pulls the rug out from under me. And this is the most fun one yet so far. And I think it's because I knew Bark at the Moon was a really beautifully written song. If you just look at the composition, the arrangement, the guitar parts, the moods, the story. So it's like Strung Out just took everything and put it up a notch, threw in some fun twists, but they stayed true to it in all the right places and took creative liberties in the places that didn't matter as much, and just being able to pull things from an arrangement and go, what's going to disrupt the character of the song? Let's keep it the same. But what can we add here that's not too consequential to how the song comes across and does true by the original? Let's get this out of the way. Who Wore It Better? You can't beat the Ozzy version. I'm going to go with the Ozzy version, but Strung Out did such a nice take on a song that has a lot of headroom to be heavier. I wouldn't want to say Strung Out just because of that fun little detour, but I heard that and I thought, damn, I love this band. Ozzy's one of those artists, and there's a lot of others that make this rather small list, but you can't like try to do the original too much vocally. So you have to do your own thing vocally and then keep the liberties in the music, and I think that's what Strung Out did here the best. And it's cool to just hear what Bark at the Moon might have sounded like if it were released. Like, what if Ozzy released it on one of his 2000s albums? It might have had more of this flair. Maybe with Zakk Wylde playing it or something. So that was a fun glimpse to hear a classic reimagined in a really creative way. Really great version. I figure there's a lot of covers of this song out there. I don't know of them, but this has to be one of the highest revered ones. But I'm just going to have to give it to Ozzy because the original is so legendary and iconic. It's hard to move that needle. And we just lost Ozzy last year, so this is just a really fun thing to revisit. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Once again, in the comments, please leave your favorite and personal favorite Who Wore It Better examples. And an example of that is a song, a cover of a song, where you like both of them a lot for different reasons. I would love to hear those just like this, because comparing these is just so much fun. But the best way to support the channel is to come hang out with us over on Patreon. I do full albums every month. We break them down. They're voted on. I have bass lessons, music theory lessons. We have an amazing community. It's like $3 a month. If you enjoy what I do, come support the channel. Make sure you subscribe to this, turn on the notifications, because there's many more episodes like this coming up Who Wore It Better themed this month. I love you all. We'll see you in the next one.